All right, everybody, welcome back to the #1 television program in the history of the entire universe. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon, The Blackest Heart, and The Lonesome Crown. All three books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Now, today I'm going to be reviewing Nightborn, Coldfire Rising by C.S. Friedman. This book was sent to me by the publisher, Daw Books, in hopes that I would, I imagine, read it and review it on the channel. They sent me this little press release thing about the book. The reason they sent me this book was because they saw my review. Well, they know who I am. I'm world famous. And they saw my review of C.S. Friedman's Black Sun Rising, and so, and my review of a lot of other Daw books. But anyway, they sent me this. So thank you, Daw Books, for sending me this. I read it, I loved it, and now for the review. So let's talk about the covers first. Because I love graphic design and cover illustration. This cover is pretty cool. It was done by a illustrator named Jessica Levi. This is the way it's spelled, though. Jessika Lebye. I think it's Jessica Levi. Anyway, so this book is a prequel novel to the original Coldfire trilogy, which comprised Black Sun Rising, which I've already read and reviewed on this channel. True Night Falls, When True Night Falls, which I'm reading right now, and I will be dropping a review of this book tomorrow. And then Crown of Shadows. And these books all look pretty cool. I've had these books since the early 90s. C.S. Friedman's been one of my favorite writers of all time. So it's cool to get a little prequel novel to this series that came out some 30 years ago. Here's the thing. This series of fantasy novels, kind of like science fiction fantasy novels, in this series of books, they talk about, especially in book number 2, they talk about a spaceship that settled the planet that all these characters from this trilogy adventure across. Now, this prequel novel is about that very spaceship that settled the planet. So, to set it up, the Terran colony, Terran, the Terran colony ships, are sent out all over the universe, galaxy, whatever. They're just sent out in hopes of finding worlds to inhabit. And one of the ships, of course, ends up finding the planet that all these books happen on. And it finds it in this book, if that makes sense. It is kind of a... oh, and by the way, the reason I'm reading book 2 now is because reading this book inspired me to read book 2, because I recalled that the characters in this book were actually in the prologue of this book. So it was interesting to read this and then go ahead and read this one again and see how both of them tied together very nicely. Which is kind of cool that C.S. Friedman wrote the prologue 30 years ago with characters that she then made a full novel of 30 years later. That was dope. Anyway, so the characters on this ship, namely Leon Case, who was mentioned in this book, and he is sort of the captain of the ship, and then there's the medic, Lisa Perez? No, it's Lise. I don't know how to Lise Perez. Anyway, she's the medic. Anyway, they're the two kind of main characters in the prologue here, but they end up being the main characters in this book here. They do find a planet. Questionable circumstances of why they're at that planet. Of course, they've been in kind of like this sleep state until they arrive. They get to this planet. They wonder why their ship has chosen this planet, because it's kind of a questionable planet to choose. It's like unstable. It's volcanic. They don't know it yet, but when they go down to the planet, they find that it's got these magical properties that they just can't figure out. And it's the magical properties are like this cold fire / fey magic of kind of that works with the natural weather systems of the volcanoes and oceans and forests and wind patterns, and the magic can be strong in one area, weak in another, just based off of the way the wind is blowing, really. And but this magic, it makes the dreams of a person come true, and that's just part of it. I don't want to spoil all of it, but imagine if your dreams came true, and some of the monsters and creatures and weird shit that happens in your dreams, suddenly you're dealing with it in weird life, in real life. That would be creepy, right? So anyway, it brings your greatest fears and darkest nightmares to reality, and it's the Fae. It's a natural force. I think I've already went over that. They call the planet Erna, E-R-N-A. It's really a paradise. A deceptive paradise is what they found. And they have to inhabit it. I mean, their ship has delivered them to this planet for a reason. They must inhabit it. Like all the other Terran ships have delivered other peoples to other different planets, and this is the way they're expanding the galaxy, yada, yada, yada. They got to figure this shit out and create a sustainable future on this planet, which they clearly do, because this trilogy here, along with another trilogy, is set on the planet Erna. And one day I'll do my entire C.S. Friedman book collection, because I got a lot of her books. I got pretty much all of them. And but there's a lot, and a lot of the stories are centered around this paradise planet Erna, and the Fey magic, and the Coldfire magic, and the demons, and the vampires, and everything else that's creepy crawling along this planet. But this is the prequel to how the planet was discovered. And it was kind of cool to get a book about that. I actually really, really enjoyed it, just because I liked, the prologue of book 2 here touched on it briefly. This book expands on that quite a bit. Anyway, that's it. That's the review. I really enjoyed this. I'm going to give this a 9 out of 10. The only thing that I wish it was bigger. C.S. Friedman usually writes these epic, long, big, 700 page books. This one was a little short, but that's my only quibble with the whole thing.